You are the most important relationship. Before you swipe, text, or worry about being too much, start with you. Grow Therapy helps you build self-worth, set boundaries, and show up as your full self. Whether it's your first time in therapy or your 50th, Grow makes it easier to find a therapist who fits you, not the other way around. They connect you with thousands of independent licensed therapists across the U.S., offering both virtual and in-person sessions, nights and weekends. You can search by what matters, like insurance, specialty, identity, or availability, and get started in as little as 2 days. And if something comes up, you can cancel up to 24 hours in advance at no cost. There are no subscriptions, no long-term commitments. You just pay per session. Grow helps you find therapy on your time. Whatever challenges you're facing, Grow Therapy is here to help. Grow accepts over 100 insurance plans, including Medicaid in some states. Sessions average about $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0 depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/booknow to get started. That's growtherapy.com/booknow. growtherapy.com/booknow. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Three Geeks Podcast. I got Justin and I have Mark Viniello with me. Nice to meet you, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well, man. Doing well. I'm super excited to talk to you. I love talking to special effects, makeup people behind the scenes that do all the cool stuff with just the VFX. And how did you get into it? Was it always just a passion for art that you fell into the movie business, or how did that kind of come about?
I mean, I always like to say that, kind of all of us, you're kind of born strange. So you have interests as a kid that most normal people don't. I mean, you'd have to go back to my mother died a week after I was born. And as a result, my father moved us to Danbury, Connecticut to live with my grandmother. He worked really hard to support us. So my grandmother essentially raised me. She's came over on the boat from Italy. And she loved movies, especially the old movies. She used to go to the movies during the Depression, and she would, we'd watch the old movies together. And the ones that fascinated me were the monster movies. And she would tell me about Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi. I didn't get to see, at the time, they didn't really broadcast any of her favorite actors' films, which was Lon Chaney Sr. But she told me all about him, that he was this actor and he would change his face from film to film and become a completely different person. And for some reason, that really resonated with me. And I spent the better part of my formative years like drawing monsters, sculpting dinosaurs out of Play-Doh, and like gluing shit to my face in my basement when I probably should have been playing sports or something. So that's kind of how it happened. I mean, I had no connection to Hollywood. I just have a very obsessive nature, and it's not enough for me to be a fan. Mm-hmm. If I really like something, I want to know how it works. I want to know it from the inside out. And I was just fascinated about making movies and how could make something and then put it on a screen and have just such an amazing impact on people. I mean, I still love movies, and I think it is an amazing art form that has the ability, if it's done right, to really make you feel stuff. I mean, good directors, actors, and script can make you cry for these people that you're seeing that aren't really there, and they're not really who they say they are. They make you afraid. It has a real emotional impact, and that really resonated with me as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. What was it like when your mom saw something on the big screen of yours for the first time? I bet that was cool. Like, regardless.
Oh, my whole family. The biggest, the first wide release film that got my name was The Santa Claus, and my family stayed till the end of the credits, like family and friends, and I got a lot of phone calls during the holiday season when that first was released.
That's awesome. That's the Tim Allen Santa Claus, right?
Yeah, that was the first one. The first one.
That's awesome. And what'd you do for that? That's one of my favorite Christmas movies, so I'd love to hear.
Oh, I got a lot of stories.
Yeah, please.
So backing up a bit, the last movie I saw in New York was Jurassic Park. Because I'm from back east. I have no connections to Hollywood whatsoever. And after college, I went to a film school, a SUNY Purchase, and my dad said, "You got to move to California if that's going to be your dream." So I bought a ticket, opening night, June 11th, 1993, the Poughkeepsie Galleria, had friends and family in tow, saw Jurassic Park on the big screen. It was everything I wanted it to be. ILM, Stan Winston, dinosaurs killing people. And at the end of the film, I stood up and I told everybody in attendance that one day I'm going to work on the sequel. Now, mind you, I'm 22 years old, only worked on student films. I had a better chance of being abducted by space aliens than working on any real Hollywood film. But I was insane. I'm like, again, I'm very obsessive. So I drove across country with a buddy of mine. And I started sending resumes out. The first big job I got a lower budget independent film with Mark Shostrom, which is really cool. That's truly my first credit, was with Mark Shostrom, called Love is a Gun. It's a film with Eric Roberts and Kelly Preston. They misspelled my name. And then I got a call from Tom Woodruff, and I was down to my last $50. I didn't know what I was going to do. And he said, "Hey, we're hiring. Would you want to come on board?" I said, "Let me check my schedule, Tom." "Yeah, I'm available. Let me know when to start." He said, "We open up at 8 a.m. This was February 25th, 1994. Amalgamated Dynamics opened at 8 a.m. I showed up in the parking lot at 6 a.m. and I waited for 2 hours for them to open the front gates. And then I got in, and the first two movies I worked on was The Santa Claus and Mortal Kombat.
Oh,
so
dope.
they're big ones. Like, I kind of jumped into the deep end without my swimmies. So on the Santa Claus, we had to do these makeup tests, these prosthetics to make Tim Allen look like Santa Claus, various stages. And they needed a lot of prosthetics run out of this material called foam latex, which is a material that's been around since the 30s. It was used in The Wizard of Oz. It was used it's still used today. It hasn't been completely replaced by silicones. And the guy who was in what's the foam room, which was this little closet room where you would mix all these toxic chemicals to mix up the rubber and then inject it in a mold, and then you bake the mold. And because they needed, I don't know how many sets of these things, because a set is only good, a set of prosthetics is only good for one day of filming. They asked Brian, like, can you use some help? And he's like, "Yeah, that new kid seems pretty good. Let's try him in here." And I was like, "All right, cool." So that was it. I was in the foam room with Brian Moore for the bulk of that film, and that was running all of the prosthetics and the pieces for Tim's makeup, and making sure there wasn't anything bad, and logging them, and then running the reindeer skins, and then some elf ears. We had to run a bunch of elf ears too, and there were various stages of elf ears, like hero and background and stuff. So that was my job. I was in the prosthetic makeup department for the Santa Claus.
That's awesome. And I'm gonna be honest, you were in some of my favorite films, so we could be here all night. So I'm gonna try to be very nitpicky, but so I'm gonna jump right to Lord of the Rings, because that is my favorite thing of all time. Like, that is my favorite trilogy. That's like, do you have any stories that you can tell me about Lord of the Rings?
I do. So by this time, we're now at like 1999, and I'm working for Stan Winston, ready to do Jurassic Park 3 and AI, artificial intelligence. Now, Stan always shut down over Christmas and gave the workers time off. I was very, very serious about that, about giving people time off. And at that time, Weta Workshop, who I had met before, I did a Xena episode in New Zealand for KNBFX, and I played one of the monsters. I got to fight Xena. That was really cool. And I took a trip to Wellington, because I was in Auckland. I took to meet Weta, to meet those guys, because I heard about them.
Yeah,
and they were awesome. So when they were crewing up for Lord of the Rings, they put out a call to the whole world to come and help them on this. It was gargantuan. And Richard Taylor gave me a call and said, we're a little behind the 8 ball here. We need some help in the foam latex department. And I said, "Great. When do you need it?" And they said, that it would be over, Christmas holiday. Now, remember, this is 1999, and the world was going to end in the year 2000 when
Y2K, right?
Yeah. So, and the first, and I discovered that the first place that ground zero was going to happen was New Zealand, because that's really the first industrial country. If there was going to be a problem, that would be the first place that would show it. There's some other uninhabited island that truly got the first light of the new year, but it was going to be New Zealand. Again, I'm 28, and I'm like single, and I'm like, great, let's go. It'll be a great party. If that's the end of the world, sign me up. So I told Stan, I said, I have this opportunity to go down. And he said, "Okay, you just make sure when you're done, you come back here, because we need you." Mm-hmm. Like, he made me give my word. And it's a good thing he did, because I probably would have stayed. So I went down to New Zealand, and I went into the foam latex department. A guy named Xander Fortier, who I'm still friends with, was running the department there. And they just had it was massive amounts. This was for an Orc or Urukai army. It was massive. Masks, gloves, chest pieces, legs. And there was like 4 or 5 people in there. So we would start at 7 a.m. and by 6 p.m. we would be putting the last molds in the oven and setting the timer and going home for the day. Lord of the Rings is one of those films that every person that works in movies would hope to one day be a part of or get their name on. I mean, I could have like, given up the ghost and died after that film was done. They very graciously gave me credit on all 3 films, even though I really didn't work on them that much. It was like a couple of months. And they're just wonderful people. And I'll be a little honest. I mean, I went down there with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, like, let's see what these Kiwis are going to do for this. See what I can bring from them. I'm at Stan Winston's. And my jaw hit the floor. In fact, I think part of their resourcefulness is they are so segregated, is if they didn't know some things, like you can't do that. It's that Kiwi ingenuity and resourcefulness is truly second to none. They did things where I'm like, I don't know how they're doing. This is amazing what they took on. And the artistry and the detail, I cannot overstate how amazing an experience it was. And I got to meet effects people from all over the world. Yeah. And truly it comes down to Richard and Tanya, because the leaders set the tone for the rest of the show. And they are, I mean, I'd lay down in traffic for either one of them. They're wonderful. I cannot say how amazing they were to me.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite memory of just being in that country then? I know it's beautiful. I've never been. I'd love to go, but I know it's just pretty. And
you should do the Hobbit tour. You have a whole tour and you'll see the Weta Cave. But my memory was New Year's Eve when the world was going to end. We were at a bar and there was a river, and I remember, and when we were just drinking and having a great time. I'm like, this is it. And then when the New Year's happened, we all ran out of the bar and we could look down on the river. And on the river, I saw all these little pinpoints of light, because it was far distance away. It was people on their cell phones checking to see, did it end? And it didn't. And it was like, great, we're still here. And then we partied even harder then. So that was a wonderful time. That was a good memory. It was amazing hearing stories about the production. I didn't get to go to set. Mm-hmm. It was really there to help kind of get the prosthetics out. But you start to hear stories like, Stuart Townsend was supposed to be Aragorn. Yeah. And he wasn't. And find out why. And you just find out little things where you're like, this is kind of a nutty production, but we're right on. And having Peter Jackson too, that was another one. I'm like, this seems more like it'd be appropriate for Ridley Scott. But Peter was the perfect person for it. And it was perfect. It was in New Zealand because the studio couldn't bully him. He could do what he wanted to do. And he was very serious. He's like, I'm not rushing this. I'm not going down in history as the guy that ruined Lord of the Rings. We're going to do this right. And he did.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredible.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I'm so glad to hear stories about it. It's so cool. But like I said, I can cherry pick your IMDb all day. But like Jumanji's my childhood, man. Let's talk about
That was the second movie I worked on at ADI, and that came in right on the heels of the Santa Claus. Mm. And I didn't know anything about it. And again, working at Amalgamated Dynamics that time, I mean, Tom and Alec really, they came from Stan Winston's. They were one of Stan's guys. And when they did Jumanji, they just had a vision and a way to do things that were just really freaking cool. They weren't afraid to push the envelope and do some really cool stuff that, it could fail spectacularly and they'd lose a ton of money, or it would be really cool. And one of my most visceral memory of Jumanji was we made a little bat puppet, because in the beginning of the film, the thing happens, the bats come out, and this puppet, I mean, it was this big, it could make expressions, it could smile. I was in charge of doing the wings. So we had a mold, and I was stippling layers of latex, and I was like laying little thread in for veins. I mean, it took me like a week to do both wings, but you hold them up and it looked like a bat wing. And remember, I go to the theater and I'm so excited to see the bat, and it's literally on the seconds where it lands on our shoulders, goes, and then it cuts and they fly away. And I'm like, when is it coming back? Like, there's got to be something. Like, it has to be the big boss at the end. Something has to happen. And nope, that was the end of it. And that was a very sobering experience about making things for Hollywood. But to Tom and Alec's credit, they made sure that even if this thing could have been the star of the film, the detail and the care that went into that, even though it was on the screen for 3 seconds, it was a beautiful, beautiful piece.
Sure. And I did want to ask you about 10,000 BC. Now, it's been a long time since I've seen it. I just remember, like, I remember the promotion for it more than I remember the film. Like, do you have any stories
Yeah.
about that? Because it was
Not
being a wild time.
many. I'll be honest, because at that time I was working for Patrick Tatopoulos, who again is someone else that I cannot sing his praises enough as a creative artist and a boss and just a cool human being. And I forget, we had finished a show, we were waiting for another one to start, and 10,000 BC came in. And instead of letting me go, he's like, Mark, do you want to be in the mold shop? And I'm like, sure. I'm not a great mold maker, but that was really it. Was just helping make these molds of these models that would then go to the visual effects house. They would scan them and animate them. I'll be honest, I've never even seen the film. I didn't work a whole heck of a lot on it. I was just kind of helping, not screw up molds, having mold makers yell at me that you're doing a terrible job. I was like, I know, I'm trying. But that's really, I'm sorry, that was my only real memory of 10,000 BC.
No, it's okay. I just remember I was in high school at the time. I just remember seeing all these commercials for it and it being just a caveman versus the world. I just remember that whole thing. It was
and I don't think it did very well. It
did not. I remember distinctly it did not do well.
Yeah. Oof.
That's all
right.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that's on there because the IMDb is not 100% complete, and there's a few films I've worked on that I didn't get credit on that I wish I did. But I mean, like I said, I got credit on Lord of the Rings, so I shouldn't complain. But
brother, your IMDb is as impressive as ones I've seen. Like, let's talk about Spider-Man. Want to talk about Spider-Man?
Oh yeah, sure. I can tell you about Spider-Man. Do you want to hear the one film that I didn't get credit on that I was like,
that you did. Okay. You did throw that up. Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
So I'm at Stan Winston's. I'm working in the prosthetic department, and I was hired on Austin Powers 2: The Spy Who Shagged Me to be in the prosthetic department on Latex. Yeah. I got stories about that too. And I'm setting up the room, and Stan always had other shows going on, and stuff was coming in and out. And I remember these guys brought these molds, and they're like, "You have to run some gelatin pieces out of these, and we have to ship them off to Philadelphia like today." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "All right." And I'm like, it was a slashed wrist. It was a blown out back of the head, like a gunshot wound. Yeah. And I remember going, I mean, all right, what is it? They're like, it's some Bruce Willis film shooting in Philadelphia. And I'm like, all right. And I looked on the mold, it said 6 cents. And I'm like, all right. So I ran the pieces. Right. And I never thought anything else about it. I forgot about it completely. A year and a half later, I'm in the theater, like with everybody else, just like riveted to the screen. And the kid is like, you want to go find my dad's gun? And he turned around and went, hey, like, I know what that is. And then I waited for the, I just generated, I didn't sculpt it or mold. I just ran the gelatin out of it. And then the credits came and I'm like, yeah. So the 6 cents was one of those ones that I did do a small part of and didn't get credit.
Dude, that's an incredible story. That's awesome.
You had again, to your point, I remember meeting the original Uncle Owen from Star Wars, like at one of those, like, this is going to sound terrible, one of like those has-been cons. Sure. And I remember being like, dude, like as an actor, like, what is it like to be part of pop culture and changing cinema? Did you guys know you were making something special? He's like, what are you kidding me? George didn't know. My agent called me up. He's like, here, you got this gig for 3 days. I'm like, great. And I go do it. That was the end of it. Yeah. And I'm like, I've never forgotten that because I've been that way myself. Like with the 6 cents at the time, I knew nothing about it. I just make these molds, get them out, and focus on making Mike Myers Fat Bastard.
Okay, you can't segue. I know. We'll talk about Spider-Man in a second. Okay. Tell me about Fat Bastard.
So Stan was an artist, and he loved characters. I mean, when Austin Powers came in, it wasn't a high budget film. It wasn't. It's going to sound elitist, but it wasn't worthy of Stan Winston's attention. But he liked the script. He liked the character of Fat Bastard. He thought there's something really cool here that I want to be involved with. I think we can do something really neat. The good news is Rick Baker had done Nutty Professor and had broken a lot of ground with that we would like read the magazines like, oh, that's a good idea. We should probably do that because we had 1/10 the amount of time that Rick had to do that, which was very stressful as well. And I mean, we did a full naked suit. We did tons of prosthetics. There are a couple of stories, some I'm hesitant to share.
Only show you're comfortable with. I'm sure it was wild. I believe it very much.
I can tell you one thing that happened was when the show ended, when we thought we were done, Stan had an off-site mold storage place, and we put all these molds on this little gator that didn't have any walls on it, and the mold shop super was driving, and he took the corner really fast to kind of scare me, and the Hero Austin Powers mold flew off and hit the concrete and cracked. And I went, oh my God. And Tony, and the guy looks at me and goes, sir, what did you do? And I'm like, I didn't do it. He's like, and he's just laughing. So he took it and he put it in the T-Rex's mouth to hide it in the storage unit. And then sure enough, 3 weeks later, Supervisor John Rosengrant comes over. He goes, so we got to do some pickup shots for Austin Powers. We got to run some more Fat Bastard makeups. And I'm like, we do? And I said, talk to Tony about getting the mold out. And of course it was like, what? And then we figured out a way to patch it and get it done.
That's
awesome. That was one of a few stories. I'll tell you a couple offline.
Yeah, please. I would love to hear it.
Yeah.
But that does pick it up memory. Like, what was the most rushed or urgent thing you've had to like, oh crap, this went wrong, we have to do that? Did you have like a memory that like really like, shoot, we have a day to do this, we got to get it done? Anything
that has happened so many times.
Oh, okay.
I can't think of one. Mostly TV. The TV stuff was always a gnarly schedule because it's TV. Yeah. Is there one that stands out? I can't think of one right now. I mean, maybe something will pop up as we continue talking, but that invariably happens, and it happens. I mean, it can happen for, the director decides to change something at the last minute, or there's a variety of reasons why it could happen. Nothing's really jumping out at me though, because again, it's happened a lot. It happened on Jurassic Park. It happened on Austin Powers. It happened on Austin Powers. I'll tell you what happened on Austin Powers.
Please. Yeah.
This was after Christmas. I'd gotten back. This was before Lord of the Rings, but it's when I started on Austin Powers, which was 97, 98. And we started running pieces, and Stan came in and said, we gotta run them all again. And I was like, what? He's like, it's the wrong color. And I go, well, what do you mean it's the wrong color? Like, it's, we're running it. We run the foam latex and we made it like a pale neutral flesh tone. He's like, it's wrong. It needs, and I kind of was like, what? I was a little indignant. And Stan goes, come with me. And he came over and he showed me a bust of Mike Myers he only showed me a profile. It said, this is the piece we're running right now. Okay. And I said, it looks great. And he goes, yeah, he's Scottish. And he did the other side, which had a very pale piece on it. And I went, oh, motherfucker. Right. He's right. He's right. He's Scottish. He's right. It's got to be that. Mm-hmm. So we redid all the prosthetics.
That's wild.
Stan had an eye.
Yeah.
Stan had an eye. And Stan would be the first to tell you, like, he's a good artist, but he hires people better than him. And he was never afraid to do that. He had an eye for talent. He hired the best people he could find.
I think that's a sign of a good leader, or at least a good boss. And so, that's awesome. So let's dip our toes into Spider-Man. I think you have credits on Spider-Man 1, 2, maybe 3, if I scroll up high enough.
I don't know. It might have done 3. I worked for 3, like for 10 minutes on 3.
Oh, okay.
Story, okay. But I don't know if I got credit. I shouldn't have if I did. So Spider-Man 1, I went back to ADI, and this was the first time I had ever seen an under muscle suit run out of foam latex, that then the costume went over it, and the dimensional webs were all run out of foam latex. They had these flat aluminum molds that had all the patterns of the webs. There was like 20 of them, and they all went together like a jigsaw puzzle. First time I'd ever seen anything like that. So it was trying to figure out how to do this. I mean, again, Tom and Alec trying to figure out a way to make it work. And this was really the first time I can recall of a makeup effect shop doing. Now, I know there were the Batman films that did the costumes, that had a specialty shop for that, the Bat Shop. But Spider-Man really was a makeup effect shop doing specialty costumes, and it was a spectacular costume. I totally screwed something up on that too, where completely, where so the Spider-Man suit was 2 suits, and the undersuit was this mesh suit, and there was like a 90 piece mold that we injected the foam and made all the muscles. And then the spider suit went over it that had like the webs and stuff on it. Yeah. So I remember I was having a hard time closing the mold because there was a zipper at the top. And I remember, the way the suit was designed, you didn't need it. You could have kind of got into it like long johns and stuff. And I went to Alec and I said, Alec, do we really need the zipper in the back? And he goes, because I said, I'm having trouble closing the mold. And, he gets into it he gets into it like long johns. And Alec is like, I don't think we need the zipper. I'm like, cool. So I bust the zipper off and I super glue and I like epoxy so it can't be unzipped ever.
Mm-hmm.
Ran the suit, sent it to set. Apparently Toby's a little claustrophobic.
Oh no.
And yeah. And he got in, he's like, all right, guys, I'm going to get in this thing. And this is a story I heard. And he's like, I'm going to let you know if I got to get out of it. And he got in and he's like, okay. So they go to get it out. And Al goes, wait, I'll unzipper the back. That'll help. He's like, oh, that'll totally make it better. And there was nothing to zipper. It was all.
How are you going to know? That's an incredible.
No, I heard about that.
How are you going to know? Yeah.
And I was like, because I was like, what the hell were you thinking? I go, Alec, do you remember when I asked if you needed the zipper and you said no? And he's like, yes, I do remember it. Now it makes sense. I'm like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So stuff like that happens. I mean, again, I'm glad I wasn't there for that. It's just a story I heard later. So
yeah.
Yeah. And then Spider-Man 2, I was actually working for Steve Johnson at that time. I did very little work on the emblem on the spider suit. I did some emblems stuff. ADI was still doing the suit. I don't know why we got to do the emblems, but the Doc Ock tentacles is what I was helping with, and I was doing.
Oh, sweet! Yeah,
that was so badass. Lyle Conway was the head guy to come in for that. Now you know who Lyle Conway is.
I'm not familiar, but please, yeah.
Old Henson guy was a big part of the Dark Crystal, and Lyle Conway got an Oscar for the Audrey 2 puppet for the 1986 film Little Shop of Horrors, which to this day is still one of the greatest things I've ever seen. So I'm like, I get to meet Lyle Conway. Like, this is awesome. And he was, talking about the tentacles and stuff. And we were trying to figure out things to do for Doc Ock to do. And one of the things that we wanted to play the piano, and I played the piano. And I said, I can do this. I said, he should play Beethoven's sonata, Moonlight Sonata. And so I had the tentacles. So I played the piece first, and then we played it back. And I was puppeteering the tentacles to do the thing that we showed the director. Obviously, the tentacles weren't playing the actual notes, but as the notes played, they were hitting something. And it went to the director. They loved it, but he never wound up playing piano in the film.
Oh, that would have been really cool.
Online,
show the dexterity of the tentacle part of it. That would be really cool.
And that's online somewhere. It's on YouTube on one of the behind the scene things of playing. It's actually my board is playing on. But yeah, that was again, that was another neat shop, Steve Johnson shop. They really did some really outside the box, unique approaches to things that were just different. That shop was special too.
So thinking about that, when you have something that's like very unique, do you know going in that this is going to give you trouble, or is it just like, hey, this week we realize this is going to be the big hurdle? You know what I mean? Like,
you hope it's not. It really depends on what it is. Like on the Santa Claus, one of the things they were experimenting with was this hot melt material that jiggled like flesh, only you had to heat the stuff up 400 degrees and heat the mold up 400 degrees and force inject this stuff in. That was, and then we discovered it's a bitch to seam, it's a bitch to paint, but somehow they figured it out. The guys in charge figured out a way to make it paint. Steve would do that too. Effects can be funny, and myself included, I'm guilty of this. Sometimes you get in your own head and you overcomplicate things that you don't need to. And, sometimes I have to check myself. Someone that I used to work with that was amazing at coming with some practicalities was a guy named Dan Rebert. I worked with him at Masters Effects on True Blood. And I remember there was a moment where a vampire got burned to a black chart and he's supposed to cough up ash. And I'm thinking, how are we going to do that? Are we going to have like a tube and it's a profile? That's going to look dumb. And I'm like, we can't put like dust in his mouth. Like, how do we do this? And Dan's like, get half an Oreo cookie. We'll grind it all up and we'll put it in his mouth. And I thought, oh my God, that is brilliant. That is the simplest, most brilliant idea ever. That said, on the same token, there was another episode where a girl got a cheek cut with a scissors. And I was doing the budget and I said, okay, she's got to come in, we'll do the appliance. Maybe we'll take a life cast. We may not have to. And Dan's like, no. You have to budget for her to come in for 2 life casts and a fitting. And I went, whoa, Dan, like she gets cut. And he's like, trust me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right. So the actress comes in. Dan made a tray with a wire that he put in her mouth, and the tray was held in her teeth. And he took a mold of her teeth, but we put those put this thing in her mouth, and he pimpled the wire in her cheek. So it sunk it in, it pushed it in. Then we took a mold of her face. Then we made the appliance. And while that was going on, Dan was making an actual like little dental tray with a wire coming out. And we put this thing on. I was like, oh, goddamn, like there's nothing there, because, you know, when you do a prosthetic appliance, you can only build out. You can't take it. So, but that was an instance where I was like, that's amazing. That's outstanding. So, but again, that's that outside of the box thinking.
Yeah.
There are some times that didn't work quite well, because, you know, sometimes, you know, we're going to take a life cast of a guy like this because he's going to be a monster. There's going to be a tentacle coming off. I'm like, Dan, we can't do that to the guy. He's like, well, it's going to look great. I'm like, but he won't be. He's going to die. Like, we can't do that to him. So sometimes there would be that little back and forth.
That's awesome. Is there something you really enjoy doing, or is just the problem solving of it? Do you really care what the application of the thing is? Yeah.
I love problem solving. I love working with creative people. I love going to set and bringing things to life. I love that energy. A lot of people don't like it. It is stressful. I just love when you first get a script and you read it and you go through it and you start breaking it down. Then you start going like, oh, it could be this. We could do this. And then, you know, you get all these great ideas, and then you get the schedule and the budget.
The killer of all movies is the budget.
Yeah. No, there's never enough time. There's never enough money. But, you know, we do the best we can, because I really don't know a lot of people that don't love what they do. And I don't understand why you would be in this business if you didn't love movies and if you didn't love doing this crazy stuff. There's plenty of other jobs out there, but I do love the process, and I just love seeing people that are really good at what they do. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I am friends with people I used to read about in the magazines, and I am still in awe of the art and the technicians and the things that people do. And to this, I still love going to work, and I still love being around the people that, and again, that's not to say it's, oh, believe me, there's days I'm like, I just want a desk job where I can unplug my brain, but I have to check myself, because, you know, honestly, a bad day in the office for me is if the elf ears didn't turn out right. Like that's, that's not stress. And I try to tell that to new kids coming up. Like, remember, like, stress is like brain surgery on a 6-year-old. That's stress. This, we'll figure it out. We always do, you know?
Yeah. So, for a long time I was in banking, and I had a manager that said, hey, we're not doing brain surgery. Like, he would just like calm down, like everybody. It's just like, hey, this isn't like, no one's dying because we do something. Yeah. Because we do something wrong.
Yeah.
But,
some believe me, but producers will make you think you are, and then
sure,
you know, money's on the line. I'm sure the same thing there is like, you know, it's like the end of the world.
So your work in Spider-Man, did that lead you to Venom, or was that a different avenue, or how did you?
So Venom, that Venom is not the Marvel Venom. That's the Swamp Zombie.
Oh, okay, cool.
It was a horror film about a swamp zombie, and again, that was for Patrick Tatopoulos. So when that happened, you know, Patrick said, got this other show, come on in, we need some foam appliances running. I'm like, great. So I went back, and that's what that film was. And I believe an actor, was he in Venom? I have to look it up. There's an actor I went to college with, and I've been trying to get a hold of him, and we've never crossed paths. His name is Shea Wiggum. I just saw him in Mission Impossible and F1. Like, this is the summer of Shea. In college, he was a phenomenal actor, and our paths have never crossed. He was in Boardwalk Empire. Like, he's done a ton of stuff. Yeah. And I just always, because I still have the video we shot in college. It was a movie called Dances with Coyotes, and it was about a guy who gets drunk and he wakes up next to what he thinks is a hot chick, but it winds up being a really big fat guy, and he can't get out because he's lying on his arm, so he chews his own arm off to get away. And so that was what I did in college to Shea, and I'd love to reconnect with him. And I think he was in Venom. I think I heard that he was, but I could be mistaken.
Sure. But you were in a lot of horror stuff. You were involved with a lot of horror stuff. Aliens, that's a huge franchise, and like we have
Alien 4.
Alien 4. My bad. Yes, you're right. Aliens is right. My bad, everybody. But yes, the franchise that is Aliens, not Aliens the movie.
That was an awesome experience. That was amazing because I'm trying to think about how this worked. I think we started Alien Resurrection after we wrapped Starship Troopers, because I came back from Wyoming, so I was on set for that film, and we were in the new shop, and we had already started making the Alien pieces. And I was like, I mean, to work on an Alien film, I'm like, this is one of the movies that got me in the business. Alien, and I even liked Alien 3 that Tom and Alec did. by the end of that first year of working on it, I'm like, I don't care if I see another face hugger or chest burster as long as I live. It gets old. But what was really cool about that was, Tom Woodruff is, legendary creature suit performer. He was Pumpkinhead. He was the Alien in Alien 3 and a variety of others. And I happened to be close to his size, so I could fit in an alien suit that they made for Tom. And I'm like, badass. I get to be an alien. So I got to be an alien in Alien Resurrection. And it was my first time really being on a suit in a big film. So I would always look to Tom as to what do I do? Like, and I remember there was a moment in the film, if you remember, when the aliens are in jail and like two turn on the other one and they attack him and his blood makes a hole in the ground and they all escape.
Yep.
So in that scene, in some scenes I'm attacking and in other scenes I'm being attacked. Like there was like three of us in the alien suit, me, Tom, and this other guy, David Pryor, who's now a director, doing that scene. And what I remember is after the alien has been attacked, we have this carcass lying there. There's a hole cut in the set, and they have this gack around it and special effects who rigged it to smoke and stuff. And Tom and I are sitting in this enclosed room, and, we're looking out of the neck, and I'm just sitting there, and I see like a little fire just pop up around the hole. And I'm like, huh. And it goes around, and I'm like, huh, starting to get bigger. Now I'm in a suit. I can't see we're in this enclosed room. So I look over at Tom. He's stoic. And I'm like, all right, well, if Tom isn't worried, I'm not going to be worried. So I'm sitting there and the smoke's starting to happen. And I keep looking at Tom and he's not moving. So I'm like, all right. And then eventually the door opens, people come rushing in, they get us out. And, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm totally fine to get the heads off us. And, I'm like, whew. And I look over at Tom, we're in the, outside this. And I'm like, Tom, I thank you for staying calm because I would have flipped out. And Tom's like, dude, I was napping. I had no idea what was going on in there at that time. So that was
as you do.
That's awesome. That was Alien 4. Yeah, I got to meet Sigourney, got to spend some time with her.
Was she super cool? I feel like she's super cool. I have nothing. Yeah.
Super cool. Like, you talk to Ripley and, and she really wanted to do like comedies like Annie Hall and stuff. That was, and she told me about, because I said, I have friends that are actors. I got to ask you some advice for them. And she would tell me stories when she was going to acting school and what, the teachers said to her sometimes and she truly said, just have fun with it. I mean, she was so goddamn cool. She kept calling me her puppy alien because I made her laugh. We were in this pit and they're covering us with slime. And I'm literally, I'm up to my chest and the guy has shorts on next to me and he's covering me with slime. And I kind of look over and I kind of like rub the alien's head up and down his leg. It got slime all over him. He's cursing me and she thought that was the funniest thing ever. So she signed an autograph to me to my puppet alien and Baby Godzilla because she knew I was going to go play Baby Godzilla after that. Just an amazing woman. Just awesome. I can't say enough good things about her.
That's awesome. All right. Baby Godzilla, tell me about it. You hinted at what you just said, and I'm a big Godzilla fan too. So let's delve into that.
So, Godzilla, we're back at like 1997. So this was six, seven around there. So Patrick Tatopoulos was the effects supervisor for Stargate, and then the same team did a little film called Independence Day.
Just a little film,
and monster hit. And after that, they went to do Godzilla, and Sony basically gave everybody an open checkbook and just said, we got to top Independence Day. And Patrick grabbed everybody in town from every shot. He was making offers to people like doubling their rates and like, just come work on Godzilla for a year. And people were leaving left and right to shops to go there. And I was contacted to be in the foam room and be in the suit. And I said, you're going to pay me how much? And so I went to Tom and Alex. I'm like, guys, I just got this offer. And they're like, and they heard the offer and they're like, you think Patrick would hire us? And I got a big laugh out of that. Totally cool. Nothing was really happening at ADI at the time. And so I went to Godzilla. I was in the foam room. I got to meet Richard Davison, who ran all the foam on the first Jurassic Park. And that was really awesome. And then I auditioned. They knew I was a suit guy, even though I'd really only done one or two suits prior to that. But I was like, I get to be Godzilla is one of my favorite characters growing up. Like my dad, introduced me to King Kong versus Godzilla. He took me to the drive-in to see Godzilla versus Megalon. So I'm like, I'm in. So I willed myself to be one of the guys chosen to wear that suit. And I we trained for months. I mean, I was in the shop working, but then I would have to train. And then there was a time when we got closer to shooting that they just had all the Godzilla performers in a training facility, and we all worked out all day just to get in shape. Walked around on those leg extensions, and I'll tell another story. That's going to sound like I'm bragging, but it's on. I swear to God, this happened.
Brag away, my man. This is cool. Yeah.
I hate to be like. I also hate to be like, oh, you dropped something. What? A name? Like, oh, I didn't mean. I'm just trying to be genuine and tell the story.
Yeah.
The baby Godzilla suits were massive. They were these huge things. We were on these leg extensions, and they had a tether. So we had an AmSpec vest on, which is a pick vest where it's a vest you wear. It's custom fit to you, and they'll pull stuntmen when guys get blown out windows and stuff. And they had us on a tether and a wire that ran to a track. So we're trying to walk hunched over as a baby Godzilla, and they're leading us so we can walk. And everybody's doing great except me. I could never get I don't know if it was the guy pulling me or something was off, and I was getting pissed because everyone would charge, and then I would be there hanging, trying to get my footing because I'm suspended from the cable. Mm-hmm. So I finally said, hey guys, because I'm on a comm, I said, can you do me a favor? Can you just cut the fucking cable? Can I just be freestanding, please? Yeah. And they're like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, we've been training for months on this. I'm in pretty good shape. Because I'm getting pissed. They cut the cable. The weight came down. I took a step. I took another step, and then I doop, 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 doop. I didn't run, but I walked around one side, turned around, walked. I hear people cheering and clapping because the thought was, the other guys wanted to kill me because they were going to have to run tracks and cables. But now it's like, look, they can walk by themselves. But ultimately, that was never an issue because we could never run like the CGI characters was. So the bulk of our work was either kind of standing, maybe taking a step. Sometimes there was a fixed leg into the set, and one leg was free. Mm-hmm. And there was a scene when they're running by the dinosaurs, and this footage exists somewhere. I've seen it online where I'm like thrashing and I snapped my stilt and it dropped me like a house of cards. This thing weighed like 125 pounds. Yeah. So there's some B-roll footage somewhere. And you just see this one baby Godzilla go bloop on its side, and John Reno, the professional, picked me up and was like, so I didn't dislocate my knee. So that's my Godzilla story.
It's a pretty cool Godzilla story, my man. That's sweet.
It was pretty awesome to have the professional keep me from dislocating my kneecap. But yeah, he was a cool guy. Everybody, again, great show, fun show to work on.
Yeah,
I didn't like the movie that much. When I saw the film, I'm like,
most people didn't. I was a pretty young child at the time, so I dug it a ton just because it's Godzilla, and it spawned like a cartoon, I believe, and I watched that.
Totally did.
Did.
It was Patrick's design. I mean, I again, it was a wonderful experience, and what I found a lot of times is fun films to make wind up not being so fun to watch, and films that are like a nightmare sometimes are great. There have been a few times that hasn't happened. Lord of the Rings was one, and Galaxy Quest was one of those films that was like, it was just fun top to bottom, even fun from the script all the way to set. That was a lot of fun.
I loved Galaxy Quest. Like that was just a hidden gem, like a random Star Trek movie that kind of like, oh man, it was so good.
It was so good. And when the script came through Stan's, again, not a big film, not really worthy of Stan's attention, but he loved it. And I remember hearing some of the department heads just laughing about the script, describing some of the scenes. I'm like, this sounds awesome. And I got to read some of the script. I'm like, this seems like it could be pretty funny. And we got to set. It was just a great time. And, the one kind of bummer there was Saris, the main guy. We were hoping like he was going to be like more popular than Darth Maul. Sure. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
But one of the cool things about that film was when we were figuring out how to do Saris, years earlier, Stan was in the running to do Planet of the Apes. And he, it was he did some tests. He did some animatronic masks that were a little too complicated, but then Stan and another artist, one of on this team, his name is Christian Calhoun, who I'm still in touch with. He's not in the business anymore, but they developed a self-contained mechanism that the actor would wear. And as the actor was talking, the lips would articulate.
Neat.
It was not RC. It was
super cool.
It was awesome. And I remember getting a call in because they pulled out the tapes. They started watching them. You can see all this stuff now at the Stan Winston School of Character Arts, by the way. Like if anyone wants to go there, they've got Stan's son, Matt, and Eric. They are releasing stuff that had been under lock and key in a safe that had never been seen before. And one of them is the Planet of the Apes tests that they did.
That's cool.
And I saw this tape. I mean, they pulled it out of the vault, and I'm sitting there, and I felt like a little kid again. I got so excited. I'm like, I didn't know how they. I couldn't figure out how they did it, which I really love when I get that feeling.
Yeah.
And one of the things we discovered as we had done the Saris makeup is that the sculpture was a very lizardy looking, and the mechanism didn't work quite as well. So we discovered that giving him more of a simian countenance with a muzzle was the key to make it work. So we resculpted it and did it, and that's how it worked. And the actor Robin Sachs was great in that stuff. It was a really badass character.
This might be a little bit more in the weeds than I want, but like, how long does it take to go from just a concept to an actual like foamed out like kit? Does it? Depends. I'm sure the size and stuff matters, but like
it depends on like a prosthetic makeup. I mean, if right now I would give. We do the life cast. So actor comes in for a life cast. Now we'll do scans. That's like, a day. And we generate the positives, make the master molds. That's a couple of days. And then the sculptor comes in and you want to give your sculptors, now, I mean, used to be you give a sculptor 3 weeks. Now they're lucky if they get 10 days, again, depending on what it is. And then, you go through revisions and back and forth, and then you make the molds. I could say from concept now today to the first prosthetic makeup test, 6 to 8 weeks. Which is fast. I'd rather have 12 to really, and there are makeup artists, brilliant makeup artists, and Kevin Haney said, to do a makeup process, you really have to do it 3 times. And he's right. You really do. You have to figure stuff out. And, then you look at some of the works of Kazu, who did the amazing makeup on Maestro on Bradley Cooper. I mean, those kind of makeups and the makeup he did for Bombshell on Charlize Theron. It's a makeup I wouldn't want to touch. I would be terrified. Like, give me the monsters, but I mean, I say that now, I would love the challenge, but that's intimidating. I mean, her canvas is perfect. You can't hide anything anywhere. And Kazu came up with ways to like, you scan the nose, you make these nose plugs to change the shape of her nose. Like, who thinks of that? Like, Kazu does. Again, you talk about somebody that just thinks differently and is just a perfectionist. Like it's pretty amazing what he does. So, I mean, he probably gets more time to do that stuff than I would.
Sure.
So
that's pretty awesome. But I do want to talk about one more movie, and then you sent me a bunch of images and I would like to share them and you kind of talk about them, and then we can. But I don't want to forget about Cabin in the Woods, because that's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And I would love to hear whatever you can tell me about.
So Cabin in the Woods came about. I had started working at Optic Nerve, working on Heroes and CSI New York. And I think it was during the hiatus. It was right around then. And Dave Anderson and Heather Anderson, AFX, his father is Lance Anderson, who's a legend in this industry, who's been doing stuff that, back on The Thing. They got this film called Cabin in the Woods. I didn't know anything about it. When I went to the shop, and we were doing it at the old Bat Shop, as I recall. And when I went in, it was like, it's a reunion, you see people, but it was a murderer's row of talent. Like, the people they got to work on this, it was pretty awesome to be a part of that crew. And, people had their different characters that they were in charge of. I mean, Sean Smith was running the whole show, and, Dave and Heather obviously were, but, Sean was kind of managing the shop, but everybody had their character. Hiroshi had the merman at the end. Norman had the werewolf, and I love werewolves, and I have Norman Cabrera doing a werewolf. And what tripped me out about Norman Cabrera, if any of you, nobody knows who he is, please look him up on Instagram, look at his work. Norman was one of those people I used to read about in magazines, and to work with him, and I got to see his there'd be a picture, and I'm like, wow, Norman, what'd you do on this? He's like, everything. And I'm like, what? Because sometimes I'm like, I sculpted this, or I did this, or I did the paint on this. Like, hair work too? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right. So when it came to the werewolf, Norman, this is how we're doing it. And him and Matt Rose sculpted the body. He did the head. He told the mold makers how he wanted it molded. He talked to me about different foam things that he wanted done. And I was like, yes, sir. So, and the little tricks and things, you could tell Norman was an ace, and he had done this a gajillion times. The design was from Konstantin Sakaris, who, again, who's an old friend of mine. It was great to see that. And it was on Rick Citrone, who was also most famously played Batman and Batman Superman in that warehouse fight. Awesome.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I feel like calling him like a stunt guy. He's like a performer. Like the guy is awesome. Used to box, used to spar Tommy Hearns because he had a long reach and that helped Tommy Hearns. I'm like,
oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So the werewolf, and again, Norman, I mean, he directed how he wanted the teeth cast. We had soft teeth, so when he was biting an actor, it wasn't hurting them. He didn't punch all the hair, but he styled all the hair. Sure. Like Norman had his hand, he touched that thing from beginning to end, and it was one of the best creatures there that came out of that thing. The merman was cool. I
loved the merman. Oh my gosh, that was so funny at the end of that movie.
Oh. Hiroshi's design and the way that mold was made for the head, it was like, I'm going to get technical here, but it was partial silicone. It just suffice to say, I had to call a colleague and be like, dude, how would you run this? And he said, I would pin this and do this. I was like, all right, that's what I'll do. It was Roland Blancafleur, who is one of the greatest foam runners ever. And he has his own company out called RB Effects that makes prosthetics for people. Like I called it just to get to pick his brain.
Sure.
He gave me some pointers on that, but again, that was a pretty, and it was Hiroshi, I think, was the one that really spearheaded that one. Hiroshi Katagiri, who's also a director, did a great film called Gehenna. It's a horror film. I highly recommend it if you can see it.
Sure.
Yeah, everybody. Mark Garbarino had worked on some of the demons. Lance Anderson worked on the unicorn, and I mean, it was just. Again, that was one of those magical moments working on a film. And I remember as we're working on it with all this stuff, I'm like, the fuck kind of movie is this? Like, how does all of this tie together? Yeah. Like, I don't get it because I didn't read the script.
Yeah.
When the film came out on video, I don't remember if I rented it or I watched it on demand. Whatever I did, I started watching it. And you know how the film opens up. And I'm like, 5 minutes in, I paused it to just make sure I was watching the right film. So I'm like, wait, what is this? And then I went back, and then it was, just an awesome, awesome ride. I love that movie. And I'm really
I want a whole universe of that movie. I would love for them to just start picking out all those creatures and stuff. Oh, it'd be so cool.
You could do movies with all of them. I mean, they even had Todd Masters, my old boss, up there work on it. I think it was before I started working for Todd, doing some of the ballerina and stuff like that. I mean, it was just one of those films that was awesome. And again, as an adult now, but you watch again, watching a horror film, getting excited, eating the popcorn, just loving it. And that rarely happens on films I work on, especially if I've gone to set with it, because I know how the sausage is made, so it's like, I'm right off, it's hard for me to enjoy something I was very close to, but like making that film was great because I didn't go to set and I could enjoy it because I had no idea what the hell was happening. And I think it was a brilliant, brilliant take.
That's all. And you bring up a topic that I wanted to pick your brain about. Is it hard for you and folks in the business to watch films in general when you're like, oh, I know how they did it? Like, is it hard to turn off like the professional side of your brain while you're watching a film and be like, oh, I'm just in Star Wars. I'm existing in like the room rather than, oh, they have wires there. Oh, I see how the prosthetics are made. Oh, what I mean? Like,
so I've gotten better at that the older I've gotten. And if it's a good film and it grabs me, I just go along for the ride. Yeah. I try to turn off that part of my brain. Sometimes it does pop up if I see something. I'm like, ooh, like for example, seeing F1. I know it's not a horror film, but I'm like, the camera work in that. I'm like, I thought it was amazing CGI. I'm like, I don't know how they did this. And then I saw the behind the scenes. They had little mounted cameras on the fender that would swivel to Brad driving and then swivel back. And I'm like, that's awesome. So there are things I can appreciate that I'm like, how do they do that? But and sometimes if I see, for lack of a better word, a bad edge or something that no one else will see. I can't help it. Like I see certain details just because that's how my brain has been conditioned that no one else will see. And it doesn't take it away. It doesn't anymore. And I've learned to give a lot more grace, because I was very judgmental as a kid. Like that sucked. That design sucked. That makeup sucked. And I'm like, well, motherfucker, you don't know how much time or how much money or what they had to do to deal with to get that shot. So shut the fuck up, kid. Yeah, so that was, kind of how I've learned that over the years to just be like, I don't know the conditions they had to do this in. So I now just try to sit back, eat the popcorn, enjoy the beat. If it's a really well-crafted film and that director knows how to manipulate you, he's got me and I'm off. I'm for the ride.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I do want to show the folks the photos you sent. You like, I love like some of them are so artsy. I was like, oh, let's talk about it. It'll be fun.
That's the Baby Godzilla team. That's myself on the left.
Okay.
Then behind me, the guy with no hair, that's Kurt Carley. He also played Mama Godzilla. In the foreground is Brian Simpson. Brian Simpson is a very accomplished stuntman and creature suit performer. I mean, I think he stunted the Predator in the first Predator, even though he's not 7 feet tall.
Cool.
And I can't tell I can't tell if that other guy is Preston or Bruce. And then there's another guy facing the other way. I think the guy facing to the right is Preston, and the guy in front of him is Bruce Mars. Yeah, that was at the training facility with those leg extensions on. We would walk around for hours and we'd try to keep our elbows in so we didn't look like, chickens. So, and again, we looked at Jurassic Park and how did the raptors move? And so about keeping the elbows in. It was a long time ago, but man, I remember like it was yesterday.
I mean, it'd be hard to forget walking around on stilts with Godzilla feet on.
I did it. I took my stilts home. I would walk around my apartment. I would walk up and down the halls. Like I would get up, I'd put them on. I wanted it so hardwired into my brain. I couldn't, lose my balance if I wanted to. Sure.
Do you think you could jump on some stilts right now?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome. This photo was so cool to me.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. So good.
So that was from a film called The Curse of Bridge Hollow. It's a Blumhouse film. It's a Halloween family film in a Netflix released it. It's an awesome family Halloween film, and it's about Halloween decorations through circumstances like suddenly come to life and terrorize the town. That was, again, it was one of those films. There was so much going on. The company I work for, Spectral Motion, we were in charge of that guy, which is Stingy Jack, the main big bad guy at the end, and then these two mummy decorations that come to life. There was like clowns, giant spiders, there's all these other monsters. So there were other companies involved. Tony Gardner's Alterian Effects did some work for it. The Henson Creature Shop did some stuff for it. And then Todd Tucker's Illusion Industries did some stuff for it. So that was kind of cool, going to set and having like a family reunion with all these other people I knew. I remember I got to set, and the stuff I had to work on wasn't there yet. Something happened, like they couldn't get it from the airport. So I'm like on set. I'm like, and Tony was there working on a gag with another guy. And I just told the producer, like, well, since I'm here, like, Tony, could you use some hand? He's like, absolutely. So I'm like, great. So I got to work with Tony Gardner and, help them do their gag. So that was really awesome. It's great to see old friends. And when you're in the trenches with them, working for a common objective. But that was a neat character. That was on a 7-foot tall stuntman named Kyle Zapernick. And
if that's just a person, that's a huge human. Yeah.
He's a huge human. And that head was a foam latex face that was animatronic. And the lighting inside was practical lighting. And the way the guys designed it was like some type of chaser LEDs that it crackled like fire. And they made it so we could like dim it and really intensify it. Because in the film, he breathes fire. And the VFX guys are like, this is awesome. Like, you're doing all the interactive lighting for us. I'm like, great. So it worked out really well. And that's one of the things about working for Spectral Motion is that, Mike and Mary Elizalde have assembled a team that they're the best there is. And the stuff they do always is just a little bit better than what you would think or expect. Like, they can't do something simple. It's almost frustrating. When we did a marketing campaign for the Curse of Bridge Hollow, they did a pop-up Halloween store and had people in costumes, and we made a giant spider and stuff to come to life. And you film it, you can see it on YouTube. And I'm like, we made this giant spider, and I'm like, guys, this has got to be a Halloween costume. This is Halloween level. Like, this has got to be crappy. It is the nicest Halloween level spider ever made in the history of the planet. It still looks like a one, but it's gorgeous. I mean, if I was Roger Corman, I'd make a whole film just around the spider that was made. It was beautiful.
So speaking of this, are you one of the houses on your street that go all out in Halloween? Because I would imagine you can do some really cool stuff just in general.
My neighbors are very upset that the plumber's pipes are always broken. And on St. Patrick's Day, most professional alcoholics take that night off. I don't do. I'm like the Grinch house on Halloween. It's dark. There's nothing there. I don't even dress up to give candy or stuff. I mean, maybe one day when I'm retired, when I'm done for this, I'll probably do it. But I take Halloween off, generally speaking. Sure, I'll make my kid, which is fun, and I'll go. My kid's grade school, even though she hasn't been there in 2 years, they call me in for career day, even though they stopped doing career days like around Halloween. So I'll bring all the heads and I'll do it.
Oh, that's cool.
That's what
I do. Fun. Yeah, that's fun. That's awesome. I thought this was a pretty neat picture too. What's going on
Yes.
here?
So that is from the Amazon Prime film, The Tomorrow War, the Chris Pratt film. And
Oh,
Spectrum
okay.
Motion made the practical creatures. So that's me on the back puppeteering the practical queen. I think they call her the female, whatever that lays the eggs. This was all replaced by CGI later because they made her much bigger and she did other stuff. But there are some practical elements in there, some practical robotics and stuff that we've done. For that film. That was a blast. Chris McKay was the director, and the VFX supervisors on that were awesome. It was a great time. Rob Cowan was a director or a producer, and we shot in Atlanta at the Blackhall Studios. It was just a great experience, and I will never understand the hate that Chris Pratt seems to get online. That guy, you work long hours, you're tired, the crew gets burnt out. He can come on set and he can change the energy of a set. He got us like a coffee truck. Like he can come on a set and he just changes the energy because he's excited to be there. He's just a really cool guy. I mean, he really, and I'm talking like anecdotally, like meeting with him, talking with him, fist bumping, like I interacted with him. I mean, I've never been to his house. I don't know him well, but I can tell you my experience, the guy's awesome. And I told him this too. He has to do a lot of acting with stuff that isn't there that they put in later. He could be a mime. Sure. He could be a puppeteer. He is so good at making something like when he's wrestling with something. I mean, I'm a puppeteer. I'm a creator. I can't do it as good as he did it. He is that good. And I told him, I was like, oh, come on. I'm like, no, dude, like we got a puppeteer gig coming up. Like, I want to hire you to come in and help us bring this creature to life because you're awesome. I mean, when we showed up with the creature, we showed up with there's a dead creature in the elevator. You never see it. It's a full size one. He brought his son over and his wife came and he was just so excited. I'm like, well, come on, dude. I mean, you were on the Jurassic films. You saw this. Like, but those are dinosaurs. We've seen those. Like, this creature's never existed. We've never seen something like this in person. I'm like, touche. Good point.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I love hearing good stories about people. It's nice to hear that Hollywood stars are not all a-holes.
Not all of them, but he's there have been a few where I'm like, I never want to work with him again. But I try to give people grace. Don't know what kind of day they're having. And again, when you're working with someone like me, it's like going to the dentist. You're in the chair for hours with people poking all over your face, and then you got to go act. So it's tough, but hopefully their agent negotiated appropriate compensation.
Yeah, I chit-chatted with an agent once, and he once said, "Is like if they're an asshole once, give them grace. If they're an asshole twice, now we have a pattern." Like that was just
he's right. He's absolutely right. I usually only work with people once, so I got to give them.
Yeah, it's fair, totally fair. This cracked me up when you said this to me. That was sweet.
Yeah. So what we have here is the crew for Imaginary. This is another Blumhouse film we shot in New Orleans. And this was the bear beast, the Chauncey beast, the little teddy bear turns into this monster. And who we have working from left to right, we have Tim Heising, who's a mold shop supervisor, puppeteer, makeup artist. I've met him on Starship Troopers. Behind him is Richard Landon. Richard Landon was one of original's Stan Winston's crew. He worked on Aliens. He worked on the Terminator. And he is not shy about sharing stories when nerds come up and wipe boogers on him to geek over him. He's totally cool. Like I should recommend him to this podcast because
please, we would love that.
The stories he has is again why I got in the business. Yeah. In the creature suit is Dane DeLegro. Dane played the Predator in Prey. And he has now gone on to an actual acting career. He's done creature suit stuff. He's a superior athlete, but he's a legitimate actor too, and was in Running Time or Winning Time. It's the basketball season 1 of the basketball with Kate Hudson. She did he was in that briefly, but he's doing other stuff. I'm there. And then in front of me is Claire Fluin. Claire is like my work wife, and I rely on her and I lean on her so much to do things. I mean, she did The Grinch. She did Nutty Professor, like when Eddie Murphy's jumping rope and he's really fat. She made all the stuff that looks heavy but isn't. And then next to him is David, who is a local costumer who was a fantastic find, because you never know how local help is going to be.
Sure.
Again, if he was local to LA and I had stuff, I'd hire him today. I hope to go back to New Orleans to work with him again. So that was a great film directed by Jeff Wadlow, who we worked with on Cursor Bridge Hollow. again, it's great to work with people because you know how they roll, you know what to expect. That was just a really fun film. The cast was amazing, like that, and I got to be in New Orleans. It was awesome. And the great thing about being on a film crew is when you go there, you automatically meet locals. So it's like, where should I go? Because idiot me would go in the worst possible place you could go, and I'd get stabbed. So they would always tell me, like, go here, go here. If you suddenly find yourself alone and not in a crowd, get back to where the crowd is. I'm like, Roger that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's imaginary. It's a fun film.
That's awesome. That brings up another point that I wanted to ask you. Your community is probably pretty niche in terms of like you probably know most everybody in the business. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Like is that yeah.
Social media has helped. Like there's people, worldwide. There's still a few people that I'm just like, who's this person? Like I'll see the stuff will come up on Instagram and I'm like, oh. But generally speaking, we all kind of know each other and we all kind of know what we're working on. So yeah, it's a relatively small industry.
Which I think is pretty cool. I think that's pretty neat.
It's awesome. I mean, there's a guy in England, a guy named Rob Smith, who's a foam runner, and I'll pick his brain all the time. We'll go back and forth with stuff. I mean, he does some stuff that I would never think of doing with foam latex. It's pretty awesome. So, it's great to. And what I discovered when I first got in the business, when I was a single guy, 3 years at one shop, I would get itchy. I would get antsy. I would be like, I'm feeling stagnant. And I would almost need to go to another shop and see how things were done for a breath of fresh air. Now I'm married with kids. I am going to die at Spectral Motion. I'm not leaving there. Like when Mike and Mary close, I'm going to be closed there with them. Like that's my last shop. But when I was younger, so I would love to go to, I bounced from ADI to Totopolis to XFX to Weta in New Zealand to Stan Winston's to, all these other B2 effects, like all these other places, Illusion Industries, Canem Creations, or Captive Audience. Like I love working at other shops because you learn stuff. I feel that everybody has kind of their way of doing things, and there's never, the kids that come out of makeup school like this is how you apply a bald cap, and I always tell them, no, this is a way to apply a bald cap. And there is no the way, and it was always very inspiring to me to see how other shops did stuff and how they approach things.
That's awesome. I love it. This is very artsy for me. This is pretty cool.
What was great is I gave my phone to someone and I'm like, can you take some pictures? I never have pictures of me on set. And they're like, absolutely. And they're a much better photographer than I am. That is me. And that is the spider monster from Imaginary, played by a stunt guy named Michael Beckenmeyer. Mm-hmm. Michael Beckenmeyer, again, one of those things where I'm like, we originally wanted Twisty Troy for this character. He was on America's Got Talent or something, and he's the guy that like will stand there and he'll like fall like a pair of bones, then he'll walk backwards, and he was in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and we wanted him for this crazy role. There was a problem with his visa. I guess he's Canadian. And we're like, like what are we going to do? We're never going to find somebody like him. Never say never. The stunt coordinator gave us in touch with Michael, and Michael Beckenmeyer. He also played. There was a movie that came out right around the time, like The Boogeyman or something, that he was in that too. This guy was unbelievable. Unbelievable. What we put him through, never complained, did crazy stuff. He can run backwards like Troy and then do flips. He's also a parkour. Like, again, it's one of those people that are like, I really want to work with. I want to put him in another creature suit again. He was that good. He's awesome.
That's really sweet. I think this is the last photo I got from you, but that was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
That's the elevator, right?
Yep, that's the elevator. That's the monster that Chris Pratt's. I'm like, this is so awesome. And there was so many details there, and like his eye had reflective material, so when a light hit it would reflect back like a cat. Yeah. We made one of the nails that cut off and go back in. Mike Regan engineered that to make it multiple. I mean, again, I wish they showed this more. Like you barely see it in the film. And I get it. We talked to the director about building a suspense. Like when you first see RoboCop, you don't really see him. Like he's walking behind things, and everybody's running to see him. It was kind of built that. It was built up on that film as well. But that was that creature is now at Spectral Motion in a very prominent place in our display room.
That's awesome. I do want to talk to you about Pirates of the Caribbean. How was that? Another giant movie like universe. What was that like?
So the first, I worked on Pirates 2. That was my first pirate film, and because Pirates, they're making a movie of Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm like, how horrible is this going to be? This is going to suck. And it was like the favorite movie I saw that year. I'm like, this is awesome. So when part 2 rolled around, the makeup artist, very, very famous makeup artist named Viniello, multiple time Oscar winner, like a legend in this industry, was in charge of a lot of the prosthetic makeups. And she had a shop and she had some people sculpt things for her, but she needed foam latex run. And I'm like, I can do it. I mean, I had a small oven in my garage and I would, run stuff there. And really this job was the one that kind of forced me to like have my own little foam running studio, which I still do to this day. I ran stuff for The Mandalorian. But yeah, so it was running. My biggest memory on Max, going back a few years, was just the cannibal appliances. And a lot of them Joel Harlow sculpted, who has his own shop now and is an amazing artist. So it was just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pieces. So you get all these molds and you have to like organize them, and then you run the pieces, you open them, you grade them, and then you kind of lay them all out, because I don't know how many. She just said keep running them, so I just kept running them, and I just kept giving her invoice. She kept paying me, and I just kept giving them trays and trays of prosthetic appliances that then they went down and shot with. So that was really all I did for Pirates. I mean, I was on it for a bit, but I never went to set. It was just making prosthetic pieces and shipping to the location.
It was like a bunch of different types of appliances, I assume, a bunch of just odds and ends.
Yeah, the way they designed them, like you had like a chin that had like a look on it. You had a nose. You had nose with the things in them. You had the long earlobe. So what it looked like to me was what we like to call potato head makeups, like a Mr. Potato Head. Like you take these different pieces and you put them all together and you have a character. So they had it's a brilliant way to do it when you're doing. You're not going to have time to life cast and sculpt these characters unless they're particularly hero characters. So there was just all these different cheeks, different necks, different foreheads, and everyone would just mix and match and keep track of what they did for their character. And then when day 2, they grab forehead 1, cheek 4, chin 3, and make their character. So it was just making sure they had enough pieces for filming.
That makes sense. I want to talk to you about A Promise Fulfilled. Let's talk about Jurassic Park. You sent me a really cool video. It didn't format correctly onto this thing, so I will play it. I will play it in the video. It just won't be while we're talking. Right. But like,
So backing way up, January 11th, 1993, I'm at the Poughkeepsie Galleria with friends and family. I'm getting ready to drive across country to seek my fame and fortune in California. Watched Jurassic Park. I bought the ticket like 2 months in advance. The day that we were able to buy a ticket, I bought a ticket. I held on to it for like months. And at the end, we stayed to the end. I always stayed before I got in the business, I would stay through all the credits with a notepad, and I would furiously scribble down the names of all the effects artists. And I would try to keep track of their careers and what movies they worked on. Just as a nerd, I love this stuff. So at the end of Jurassic, I told everybody I'm going to work on a sequel. And like I said, I have a better chance of being struck by lightning. So cut to 96. I get a call from Stan Winston Studios. And mind you, I'm at ADI. We're deep into direction. And I go over and they said, hey, we're starting Jurassic Park 2. We need help in the foam room. And I'm like, because now I'm conflicted, because one thing you don't do in this business, especially back then, is you did not leave in the middle of a show. That was an unforgivable sin. And I said, I can't, I can't do it, guys. I'm sorry. I'm committed to Alien. And they're like, you sure? And I'm like, yes. And I left there going, okay, how can we? I was asked to work on the film. I could have worked on the film. I had to keep my integrity and actively turn it down. So I Could have worked on the film. I didn't get to. That's fine.
I respect it. I hopefully in the same position, I would do the same thing.
You have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, and it's unless they were like, we're going to pay you like $300 an hour, then I'm like, bye. But obviously that wasn't going to happen. There was no upside to it. Professionally speaking, it was it was another job. It was working for Stan Winston, but I couldn't leave Alien. I couldn't do it. So cut to 1998. I'm trying to think of the order now. Did Austin Powers 2, The Spy Who Shagged Me, Sixth Sense, End of Days, and I don't remember where Galaxy Quest was in there, or Pearl Harbor. They all kind of blended in, but I remember doing something, and then the bay door opens up and a forklift comes in with this giant mold, and I'm like, what's that? And they're like, it's a raptor mold. I'm like, why? Like, you didn't hear? We got greenlit for JP3. We got a year. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, no way. And then I started thinking, oh my God, no way. I have to run these giant foam molds. I've never, like, this is huge. Like, one of the biggest thing I've run was the brain bug for Starship Troopers, which was gargantuan, but I only had to do it once. So I kind of freaked out. And I also know that there was a precedent set with the people that were in that department before me. So, but one of the cool things that happened was this Pteranodon character was proposed to be built. And Chris Swift headed up that character. Jason Matthews headed up that character together. And I don't even know how my name got thrown in the hat as one of the performers for it. I probably lobbied for it because but they, we weren't sure if it was going to work. So what they did was they mocked something up for me, and there's pictures of me out in the sun, and Bill Bryant, who was the original Stay Puft Marshmallow Man working on the film, was walking with a big piece of plywood so I didn't burn to a crisp because I'm a white boy. But I remember it was this moment where, I'm in this like thing with like ski poles and stuff that was bent with this stupid thing on my head. I don't have a suit on. And I remember it was like Stan's coming. Stan comes in and I do my thing. Stan literally looked at me for 5 seconds. Like, yep, that'll work. Let's do it. And he walked away. What I've discovered in this industry, a lot of times people can't see ahead. They can only see what's in front of them. I've had directors, we do a mock-up. We just throw something together to show scale. And we'd have safety pins, and they'd be like, those safety pins are going to be the real suit. They're like, no. We just put those in there. He's like, okay, right. So there's going to be no safety pins, right? Like, no, there's not. We promise there's not going to be any safety pins. Stan wasn't like that. He saw it 5 seconds. He was like, yep, go for it. And then we built the Pteranodon suit, and that was the hardest suit I was ever in. But Stan, again, the characters was what mattered to Stan. So he hired a personal trainer on his own dime. And there was a gym at Stan Winston's studio that Arnold Schwarzenegger designed with Stan. It was the most perfectly complete little gym I've ever been in before or since. And this trainer trained me and John Rosengrant for months, 3 times a week. We'd go in an hour before work. We would do our specific workouts for the characters. And I'd go have my protein shake and I'd go start my day. And we did that and thank God we did, because even if I worked it on myself, that thing would have folded me in two. It was so heavy and hard to be in.
Yeah.
It was, and the motors were so strong. I mean, my head was in a carbon fiber shell. I couldn't look left or right. And the head was mounted on something. When they fired that motor and that head whipped to one side, the torque would throw you, and you couldn't see, you couldn't breathe. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was so well worth it. And I'm so honored again to be a part of that. It was an amazing experience. A lot of funny stories too. When they tried to fly me, that was a comedy of errors. That was not a good idea. And because I was so enclosed, they had a tube feeding me oxygen and another one sucking out my CO2.
That would stress me out.
If somebody walked by and wasn't paying attention, they kicked one of the tubes out and my air got cut off. Within 4 breaths, your body goes into panic mode. There's nothing you can do to talk yourself out of it. But it just was a dream come true. And I use this story as an example to anybody that wants to do something, that has a dream, that thinks there's no way I can do that. I mean, when I made that statement, again, the Hollywood might as well have been another planet. It was that close to me. It was the most ridiculous statement made out of ignorance that anybody could have made. But I was determined. I said, this is what I want to do. And some of it was luck. Some of it was circumstance that I was able to then cross that off my list. Yes, I did work on a Jurassic Park sequel.
That's awesome. Mark, what do you got coming up? What's going on in the world?
So it's been a slow couple of years. I mean, between COVID and the strikes, that 1-2 punch has really been challenging for Hollywood, and productions are going everywhere else but here. Spectral Motion, Mike and Mary were very smart. They've diversified. So we do work for theme parks, and we do stuff for fine artists that have animatronic animated displays. I'm happy to say that it looks like California tax breaks are making a difference, and the phone is starting to ring. And we have, for the first time in a while, I've got like 4 scripts I'm breaking down for some pretty exciting projects. I am unfortunately bound by an NDA. I can't say what they are, but they are happening. Some of them are shooting in California, which I can't remember the last time that happened. So I'm hopeful this momentum can keep going, and it just isn't a gasp of air before we drown again, because it's been very challenging for a lot of people in this business these last couple of years.
Yeah, I very much believe it. Well, I hope nothing but success. It's been a wonderful hour and some change with you. I would love to have you on again.
Anytime.
Yeah, I promise. I have about 35 other movies I want to talk to you about, but we're getting a little long. No.
Can you do a Q&A with some of your viewers or anything?
Let's do it.
I love doing Q&As.
Well, also you can come to our live show if you want. If you ever want to come, we do every Saturday. We can do something like that. That'd be cool.
Awesome. I can't do it this Saturday.
That's okay.
I've got a meeting for one of those big films. But let me know when. I'll make it happen. I'll reach out to Richard Landon, and we'll see about getting him on here. And he can talk about stories.
Dude, I love it.
Terminator, first Jurassic Park, Predator, Monster.
No. Please, I'd love to pick his brain. Yeah.
You got it.
Any socials? Sorry to talk over you. Any socials?
I'm like Facebook and Instagram, but I'm not on them very much. Okay. Like Instagram, I guess I post the most stuff that I've done, but I really don't. I'm not nearly as active on them as I probably should be. But again, I'm very responsive. If someone wants to send me a DM, ask me a question about something, by all means. I'm one of the teachers at the Stan Winston School. I've got a video on life casting, and I'll help. If somebody has a foam latex question, bring it my way. Hopefully, I can help you.
Awesome.
Well, any mistakes are happening? Yeah, any mistakes anybody's had with foam latex, I've done them all, and I've even invented some new ones. So I doubt there's a problem you're going to have that I haven't done myself. So
that's awesome. Well, thanks again, Mark, and thanks everybody for listening. I appreciate it. See you.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Bye.